All right. I hope everyone can hear me. Welcome. Good evening, visionaries, pioneers, and purpose-driven leaders. It is with deep gratitude and great excitement that I welcome you to a milestone moment tonight, the 10th edition of the Unfolding Capacity Virtual Leadership Masterclass. What a journey it has been. From our very first session to this very moment, we've watched something special unfold. A growing community of leaders, not just learning about leadership, but embodying it, stretching into it, and rising boldly to answer the call of impact, influence, and legacy. Tonight is not just another session, it is a celebration of commitment. It is proof that when leaders gather with intention, transformation follows. This platform was never about hype, it was birthed out of a divine conviction that in a world of noise, what we need is not just mere voices or more voices. We need authentic leadership that serves, lifts, builds, and multiplies. Leadership that starts with self mastery and stretches towards social and global responsibility. And to everyone who has shown up along the way, whether this is your first or your 10th session, you're part of something significant because unfolding capacity isn't just a name, it is a mandate. It's a reminder that what's in you is not yet fully seen. And we're here to dig deeper, lead stronger, and grow together. Tonight's masterclass promised to be impactful, practical, and transformative. As always, we'll be challenged not just to lead with our heads, but to lead from our hearts with wisdom, humility, and courage. We have tonight with us very impactful leader, passionate about making real impact in Professor Tshilidzi Nenzhelele. He has this thing that he's always super passionate about making real changes. If there's one thing that is uh, known about him is that he doesn't believe in just titles with no impact. And tonight he's going to share with us on impactful leadership, how to make impact as leaders and not just leaders of titles. So let us lean in, ask questions, take notes, and don't just attend. Choose to engage tonight because leaders who grow in community lead with clarity and multiply their influence wherever they go. Let me be the first to say, welcome home, leader. Welcome to the 10th edition of the Unfolding Capacity Leadership Masterclass, and let's make it unforgettable. Prof. Nenzhelele, I'm going to hand over straight to you and say shoot and let everyone engage. Have a wonderful, wonderful session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the welcoming remarks and the introduction that you um, have just given, a brief one about me. And I just want to say good evening to everybody that has spent their time to come and join this presentation that we are going to have this evening. And as amazement has said that I must shoot, I am hopeful that by the end of the session, I wouldn't have shot and miss all the targets. But I'm going to try to touch what I deem to be important aspects of leadership. I take cognizance that they are great leaders that have chosen to be here, to be present in this conversation that we're going to have, as opposed to be elsewhere because they valued the conversation that we are about to have. And I want to observe all the protocols and everybody that is here. You are here because you were meant to be here and to listen to this conversation. I won't say that I know it all. As much as amazement has said that I'm an impactful leader, I think I haven't started. I think I'm always just about to start. There are leaders who have made great impact in our world. Some of them I'll speak about, and I will emphasize on some of the leaders because I do relate to them, and I would like the audience of this meeting to also relate to such leaders. The topic that I have been given, it's quite a difficult one, but I will give it my best shot. Just as a form of introducing myself, I am Tshilidzi Nenzhelele, and I was born in a village called Chitawa, Chasambando, um, in Tulamela, Ebembe district in Limpopo. And that is where I grew up. And I did my primary level there and my secondary level there in the same village. And after that, I left to come to the city to acquire higher education. And I happened to find myself stuck in the University of South Africa, where I did all my qualifications there all the way to a PhD. And my undergrad qualification was specializing in business informatics, which is a combination of two worlds, that of management as well as information systems, which is more found in School of Computing. And I also further my honors in the same field of business informatics. After that, I then ventured towards more management with a special focus in competitive intelligence for both my master's and my PhD. Currently, I'm quite passionate about digitalization for IR and and related aspects with specific emphasis in small businesses and entrepreneurship. And these are the areas that are quite dear to my heart. And we keep trying to push um, in the area of digitalization as well as entrepreneurship. I've been given a topic to look into unfolding capacities in leadership, and this is a masterclass. And I would like to start my presentation with this giant of a leader called Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. This gentleman is accredited with the city of Dubai. Back in the 90s, you wouldn't compare Dubai to what it is today. And what Dubai is today is accredited to this gentleman, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, and he's known as the Prince of Dubai. And he has mentioned a statement which I would like to quote, open quote: "Many leaders promise, we deliver." Close quote. This is a statement that he is fond of, and in many cases, when he is invited to speak, he always somehow finds ways to mention this statement. And many times we find ourselves with leaders that will promise us a lot of things. And when they have been given an opportunity to execute or implement that which they have promised to us, usually in a period of 5 years, you would find that they have not even achieved a fraction of a percentage of what they've promised to achieve. And I think the world is longing for leaders that not only promise, but they deliver on the promise. It is better for us to be having leaders who say very few words, but do a lot of actions. And that is what I believe as the world today, we require leaders who are more of doers than those who are talking a lot. Um, Amazement talked about narratives that I have found myself recently being addicted to. And that is to say that we have got cohorts of people with high levels of qualifications, just to mention masters and PhDs. But when we look around at the actions and the impacts that such holders of higher qualifications are making, you find none or very limited impact that such individuals are making. I'm not an exception. And recently, I have found myself with so many questions as to say, I have got all these qualifications that I've acquired, but how much of impact have I made in the community where I was born and raised? And when one look, very limited impact that one has made. And I have been preaching to say maybe it's high time that we start utilizing the knowledge that we have acquired throughout all these qualifications to make tangible, real impact in the environment in which we live in. And one has to start with immediate effect because we don't have the luxury of time to keep postponing. This gentleman, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, he found himself in an interview. And in that interview, he was being questioned um, on his agenda to transform Dubai to what it is today. And what came across in that interview was that he was asked, why are you in a rush? Why don't you spend 20, 30 years to unfold the plan that you have? And he said, my people want better life now and not in 20 years. And that unfolded in his quick response to changing Dubai to what it is today through a lot of activities and also including building infrastructures that have made Dubai what it is today. And he talked about better life. He talked about better education, better health systems, and better everything that the people of Dubai could get. And that is why I put him in the forefront of my presentation. We are still celebrating the African continent this month of May. And I thought I should bring this slide with the title that the world longs for leaders who work. And there is this African proverb with this young child in it, terms of depiction of the picture. And the quote goes, the hands that make mistakes belong to those who work. In our school education system, we were rewarded for not making mistakes. And those that did not make mistakes were paraded, and they were invited to the podiums to say that you are the excellent ones who got 100% in each of the subject that they wrote. And those that made mistakes found themselves sitting right down there somewhere. And yet, the world that we are living in requires that we have got people who are bold and brave to get out there and make mistakes while they are doing the work. Again, the world that we found ourselves in, particularly in the education system, you you found that you get penalized for collaborating with others. If you happen to be found to have worked with others in a task or in a school task, you would get penalized and even receive a zero for it. But the world that we are living in, the real world that we are living in, it requires of us to collaborate, to work together in a team in order to make the world that we live in a better one. So with these African proverb quotation, I just wanted to say that the task ahead of us as leaders, it will require that we have got the boldness and the bravery to go out there and make things happen. And in doing so, we will make some mistakes. And our task is to adapt quickly, address the mistakes that we have made, and carry on with leading our people. I was listening to one gentleman that I'm sure the leaders who are here in this presentation would remember. And after the visit of His Excellency, our President, Cyril Ramaphosa, visited the US to have a dialogue or a conversation with the US President Donald Trump. You would recall there is one senior advisor to the presidency who is the richest man on earth currently, known as Elon Musk. When there was debate in the presidency, and he was asked questions about how he intend to assist government going forward. He mentioned that we are going to make mistakes, but what is very important is that we will quickly address those mistakes as soon as we pick them up. And it's people like those that have successfully led organizations that have made them to be billionaires and even currently attempting to be trillionaires. And so if we want to lead our people, we must be prepared to make some mistakes here and there and quickly address those mistakes. I wanted to talk about the challenges that our country, South Africa, is experiencing. And this is a triple challenge of unemployment, inequality, as well as poverty. Looking at this slide, which I drawn from, it says South Africa faces significant challenges with unemployment, inequality, and poverty, with the unemployment rate having been found to be sitting at 31.9% in the last quarter of 2024. And the youth unemployment rate, that is for people between the ages of 15 to 34, sitting right there at 45.5%. and women as well are not spared from this high unemployment rate. Um, and this becomes a challenge that all of us as leaders, we need to join hands in making sure that we come up with activities that will help to address the unemployment rate. For as much as I've been doing research, the unemployment rate of South Africa has been hovering around this rate of above 30%. And it has not been changing. If it has been very slightly. But we do have leaders that have been leading our country from one term to another, and this status quo is not changing. And if it's changing, it's not changing noticeably so, with a drastic margin. And all of us that are here and listening to this presentation, we have got a responsibility to change this. And we cannot continue to blame it fully on government, because we too are citizens of this country. We are occupants of this country. We can't sit and fold our hands and watch this as it persists. Inequality. South Africa is one of the highest income inequality levels globally. And when you read other documents, you'll find that it is the highest in the world. And with the Gini coefficients, a measure of income equality sitting at 0.67, indicating significant income disparity. Inequality is influenced by factors like wage dispersion within formal and informal sectors and gaps between earnings. Inequality can lead to social and economic instability, increasing poverty, and hindering overall development. And these are concerns that we as leaders, we need to look into and find ways on how we can address these inequalities. Poverty. Poverty was estimated at 63% in 2023 based on an upper middle income country poverty line. South Africa and Africa at large experience a high level of poverty, where we still find people who do not know what to eat. And this is a challenge that all of us as leaders, we need to address. We need to come up with ways on how we can reduce drastically poverty and inequality, as well as the unemployment rate. Now, let us look at the graduate unemployment. In South Africa, graduate unemployment is a significant issue. And it indicates that those people that have graduated with qualifications still find themselves without jobs. Yesterday, I was at a graduation at the University of South Africa, and we continue with these autumn graduations, and people are graduating with qualifications. Some with diplomas, some with postgraduate diplomas, some with bachelors, some with honors degrees, some with masters, and some with PhDs. And yet, some of these graduates, they find themselves without employment. And these are challenges that we as leaders, we need to find solutions to. 10% of these people that holds qualifications being unemployed, it is a growing concern that we need to address. Now, I then had to go through some research to try and find out what type of a leader are we looking for currently. What characteristics of leaders should we be having currently in the world? And I did found uh, one of the authors to be having some interesting pointers. And Sinkota, without a date of these types of characteristics of leaders that we need currently, caught my attention, and I felt that I need to bring it to this presentation. Number one, this author says we need empathetic leaders. Why do we need to have empathy? Why do we need leaders with empathy? Particularly for Africa, particularly for South Africa. South Africa finds itself with people that are struggling to make ends meet. And if we are to have a good leader, it must be one that is able to put him or herself in the shoes of the people that one is leading. If you are leading people that do not know what they are going to eat in the afternoon, in the morning, and in the evening, you need to be very empathetic. And when you roll out your plans to develop a country or to develop a continent such as Africa, you need to be thinking about these people. That someone out there does not know what to eat. They don't have the means to put food on their table. So you need someone that think of the worst that is happening in the country. Secondly, we need adaptive leaders. Our world is changing. After COVID-19 and during COVID-19, we found ourselves locked down and restricted from moving from one location to another. And what happened then was that people found themselves working from their homes. And then challenges of families, issues, and husbands and wives finding themselves together 24/7. And there came issues of gender-based violence and related matters. The environment drastically changed for all of us. And yet, even today, there are still people who are working from home. And therefore, that means that the world that we live in has changed. And social medias and many other platforms took over how we do things. We therefore need leaders that are able to adapt to the changes that are taking place in our environment. We found ourselves very reliant on networks and connectivity. And in Africa, we found ourselves with challenges of digital divide, where others are unable to connect. Someone might have wanted to be part of these conversations, but they, because of the digital divide, they could not connect to this platform. And therefore, we need leaders who are able to adapt to the environment that are changing. Thirdly, we need ethical leaders. These are leaders who are engraved and baptized in issues of ethics. These are people who are subscribed to the issues of Ubuntu, humanness. In other words, when you proceed to lead people, you would lead them in a way in which if you were the follower, you would have wanted to be led that way. We need leaders who are always considerate of the consequences of the decisions that they make. We need leaders who act in line with integrity, who are aware of the rights and the wrongs, And the world is longing for such leaders. Every now and then you read about corruptions and corruption cases and maladministration of funds and many others. And it so happens that when one leader utilizes the funds that belongs to the public, then there are sufferings and there is increase in crimes and other things because one person benefited from the funds that were supposed to have benefited many. We need collaborative leaders, leaders that are able to work with others with trust and the ability to allocate the responsibility to others. There are leaders that do not trust others and find it very difficult to collaborate with others. Unfortunately, if we want to make any noticeable change in the world that we are living in, we need to work together in peace and in harmony. That way, we will be able to have progress in our country, in our continent, and in our world. Number 5, we need visionary leaders. By visionary leaders, we need leaders who are able to see beyond one day, to see beyond 1 week, to see beyond a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We need people who are able to visualize how South Africa will look like in 100 years, right now. And even be able to conceptualize the steps that we need to take to arrive at that 100 years visual that one has received. I've recently mentioned that when a vision, it's not clear, it's not sharp, it's not strong, funds becomes an excuse. We don't have funds. That's why we can't do 1, 2, and 3. But when a vision, it's clear, it's strong, and it's sharp, it's able to attract funds. I am of the firm belief that strong leaders are able to attract the world to themselves. Our late former president, Nelson Mandela, there are people who are moving from other continents, from other countries to come to South Africa just to walk on the street that he used to walk in. That means he was a type of a leader that was able to attract the world. At the beginning of my presentation, I talked about Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. In the 1990s or 1990s, Dubai was as good as dusty. But the gentleman Sheikh managed to visualize Dubai the way it is today. And instead of going to the world, he has attracted the world to Dubai. And we need those type of leaders that are able to attract the world to the place where they find themselves in. That means we can attract the world to our villages, we can attract the world to our townships, we can attract the world to our provinces, and many other places that we find ourselves in. That is when we are visionary leaders. We are able to conceptualize what South Africa should look like and attract all the means to derive at the place where we have visioned. We need resilient leaders. It's not going to be easy for us to lead a country such as South Africa, where crime is very high. And I am of the firm belief that if we want to fight crime, we need to address unemployment, we need to address inequality, and we need to address poverty. And if we are able to address that, then we are going to have a crime-free country. So with resilient leaders, we are going to find ourselves without funds to fund all the activities that we have visualized. But in the midst of all those challenges, we should be able to be resilient, keep going, keep taking the necessary steps going forward. And most times, solutions comes when you are on the move. But when you're not moving, you'll find it very difficult to come up with solutions to the problems that you're experiencing. We need inclusive leaders. Leaders who do not discriminate against gender, against race, against background, religions, and many other aspects. We need to be inclusive. We need to make sure that all the races, all the gender that we have are inclusive when we're progressing forward. Let's not only work with a particular race or a particular gender or a particular religion, but be inclusive of all the individuals that we have. We need purpose-driven leaders. We need leaders who are very clear of what they want to achieve with our country, with our provinces, with our villages, with our townships, with our continent and the world. Very clear of what we want to achieve. If we want to address issues of challenges that we have with our educational system, we must be very clear that this is what we want to do. If we want to fight crime, we must be very clear this is what we want to do. If we want to address issues of farming, issues of mining, and many other issues that we need to address, we must be very clear. So we need purpose-driven leaders. We need coach-like leaders. In other words, our followers and the people that we are working with us in whatever space that we are operating in, they won't always be positive. They won't always be motivated. And when you are a coach-like leader, you will be able to sit them down, map a way forward, and motivate them and encourage them to move forward and work together as a team. So you need a coach-like leader in order to operate in the current environment that we find ourselves in. Globally minded leaders. We cannot work in isolation from the globe that we're operating in. South Africa is an international country that operates in a global arena. That is why the presidency had to move from South Africa to the US in order to negotiate on geopolitical issues that we find ourselves in. And this is the global world in which we are operating in. And you find many propositions that are being made for our connectivity, where the likes of Elon Musk are making propositions about their companies potentially be the solutions of the digital divide that we have. Although others are talking about the sovereignty of our country, whether with the implementation of these propositions, are we still going to keep our sovereignty as a country? And so we need leaders who are able to think globally and are aware of the dynamics of leading in a global context. We need decisive leaders. We need leaders who are not shy away from making decisions, because leaders need to make decisions and stand by that decision that they have made. Many a times we find leaders who shy away from decisions. Unfortunately, make decisions. Sometimes you make a decision and then you are being challenged to have to say that you have made a wrong decision. You need to stand for the decision that you've made. And we have got our president, His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, who have made a bold decision to go and meet up with Donald Trump to discuss the issues that Donald Trump was making allegations about what is taking place within our country, South Africa. And it was a decision that the president had to make. And a leader has to make decisions. And finally, number 12, we need brave leaders. Leaders who are able to challenge the status quo. Leaders who are able to do the uncommon things that we are experiencing. In Africa, we have got a leader that might not be the favorite for everybody, Ibrahim Traore, who is leading Burkina Faso and making all the changes that he's making. One would say that he's a brave leader. He's a leader that is challenging the status quo, introducing things that others thought that African leaders were not bold enough to make such decisions. And we need more of brave leaders who are able to make decisions that are uncommon, but aimed at changing the direction of our country. Our country found itself with challenges of energy and electricity and related matters. And others are saying that it's because some leaders in the past did not make a bold decision about the investments into our power and so forth. Fortunately, currently we are finding ourselves where there's very made mention about load shedding, and we hope that this will persist where we no longer have load shedding, and that I was told that there are benchmarking exercises where people from ESCOM are moving to other countries in order to find what is the best way in which we can power ourselves as a country. But at some stage, one needs to make bold decisions in order to make sure that South Africa finds itself without challenges of energy and power. And so we need brave leaders who are able to take drastic decisions. Going back to Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Prince of Dubai, he says, we say what we do and we do what we say. This is Dubai. We need leaders who are the same with the words that they mention. In other words, not leaders who say something else and they do something else. If we promise people jobs, we must give them jobs. If we promise to fight crime, we must fight crime. If we are saying we are going to have better and the best education in our country, in our continent, let us have the best education, because that's what we said. If we say we are going to fight poverty, let us fight poverty, because that's what we're saying. Unfortunately, we are still finding ourselves being led by people who say something else and they do something else. And if we need to make an impactful change in the world that we live in, we need to say what we do and do what we say. This is what Sheikh is saying to us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a picture of Dubai then and now. This was in the 1997, where Dubai was quite dusty, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. And on the right-hand side of the screen, this is basically how Dubai is looking like. How did we move from this dusty picture that is appearing on the left-hand side and to this picture that is appearing on the right-hand side? It was visionary leadership that transformed Dubai from what it was to what it is today. It is that visionary leadership that attracted funds to build all these infrastructures that we see on the right-hand side of the screen. And if someone could conceptualize Dubai from this dusty picture, which is on the left-hand side, to this picture that is on the right-hand side, it means we too can do and make it happen. We need to believe that with strong vision, sharp vision, and focused vision, we are able to do what was deemed impossible. Continuing with the same gentleman, I have done lots of research about this gentleman, and I found him to be a leader that it's worth mimicking. He said, and I quote, "Leadership is a service, not a getaway to privilege." Many a times we find leaders who get into positions for their own benefit and not for the benefit of others. And when we look at the inequality gap, it increases when the leaders who are in charge of things are leading with the thinking that they must benefit themselves. And you find millions and billions going towards a pocket of one person as opposed going to the people that he or she is serving. And that is when now a leader is accessing a position in order to be at a position of privilege to benefit themselves. We need leaders who are able to be leading and providing service to the people. We are not saying that leaders must not earn a living. What we are saying, they should not earn a living at the expense of the people that they are leading. So leadership is a service, not a gateway to privilege. The same gentleman, Sheikh, said, and I quote, "I might go easy on people who make mistakes, but never on people who make no effort." The gentleman is saying to us, let us put some efforts. And in putting those efforts, we will find ourselves making mistakes. I read that the drink that is favorite to most people, Coke, it was a mistake. And yet we have fallen in love with that mistake. And so as we proceed to lead our people, we will make some mistakes. But the solution is that we must act swiftly to address that mistake that we have made and carry on to service our people. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring it to the end here and say that we have got a huge responsibility to serve our communities, to bring tangible change to the world that we are living in, to put the knowledge and the education that we have acquired into practice. Because I have said that any qualification or any education that does not serve the community, it's actually useless. And I've arrived at a point where I feel if the qualifications that I've earned and the titles that I've earned do not serve the community that I live in, I do not mind being undressed of such qualifications and such titles because they are not serving the community that I find myself in. And so let us be leaders who are concerned about the challenges that we are experiencing in our community. If we haven't done so, just go and look around your communities and check, observe for a day, just driving around and checking the challenges that your communities are experiencing. And sit down and says, what are the plans? What are the activities that I can bring here to address these challenges? As I've indicated right at the beginning of my presentation, I was born and raised in a village called Chitawa, Sambando. And it is a community that has got so many challenges that it experiences. And I found myself with so many questions to say, what am I doing to uplift that community that I was born in? And I've accumulated and acquired all these qualifications, but nothing much is being done to the community. And I raised my hand to say, let me utilize the knowledge that I've acquired to try and address some of the challenges that that community is experiencing. And one, I will continue to take necessary steps to work with others to address the challenges that we are experiencing as a village. And from there, if we succeed in implementing the activities that we have written down to implement, we can then take it forward to other villages and then benchmark with other communities in order to roll out whatever activities that we might have implemented there and have worked. And that is a commitment that one is committing to say that let us do some tangible changes to our communities and make sure that there is better life for everybody. Without wasting any further time, let me end it here. And I want to thank everybody for listening to the presentation. Thank you very much.
Wow. Gosh, I took a moment there because I'm busy writing notes in every question that I could ask. But before I even ask questions, because I've got quite a few, if to everyone that has a question, please feel free to raise your hand, and so that we can recognize you, so that you can make a question or make a comment. Just feel free to raise your hand so we can recognize you for a question or a comment. In the meantime, I want to say thank you, Prof. Nenzhelele, for well-structured, informed, moving presentation. And I love the example that you've constantly went to of the Prince of Dubai, and just that picture towards the end of the dusty Dubai and the current Dubai, and emphasizing on the visionary leadership that was necessary to picture that dusty place as something that could be a destination that people fight and desire and dream of going to, even in a season like this. That is something outstanding. And for that, I thank you. I have a few questions because, yeah, you spoke on a lot of issues. And when you started, you spoke of many leaders promise, but the principle advice is that they deliver. They deliver. And we spoke about the need that if we're going to lead our people, we must be prepared to make some mistakes. In fact, you gave an African proverb that says that the hands that make mistakes belong to those who work. Now, I want to ask a question. And this is just one of the questions that I want to ask. How can we as leaders be instrumental in crafting solutions for these challenges that we face as a country and as a continent? You mentioned challenges of inequality. You mentioned challenges of employment and, amongst youth and amongst women, and you know, and inequality in income disparities. How can we as leaders be instrumental in crafting solutions to these challenges? That's the first question that I want to ask. And the next question that I want to ask is, how do we transition? And I need to say this because I think we have somehow become a country or a group of people, especially in Africa, or in fact, generally in the world, that some of us who are leaders who are so exceptional in knowing how to uh, point out faults from those who are in leadership where people can see them. Yet we don't have solutions. So, how do we transition from fault finding leaders to actually action takers, to change making leaders? How do we transition to that as leaders today? Those are my two questions. I'm going to hand it over.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Am I answering your questions or there are still other hands?
My questions for now. I'm going to wait. I'm going to let you know when the hands are lifted.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Your first question is leaders being involved in the crafting of strategies to solve the problems that our world is experiencing. I think first of all, we need to be aware that there are problems that are there in the world that we live in our communities. There are problems that are there. So if we can take cognizance first that the problems are there, and we can conduct research and maybe no longer research, but there are research that have already been conducted about our communities in the cities, in townships, in rural areas. Researches have been conducted and challenges have been outlined of what our world is experiencing. Now, I think what I would recommend is that we are in a platform here where leaders have come together to listen to this presentation. Firstly, I would recommend that we need to collaborate. Let us create platforms where we sit together, either face-to-face or virtually. We sit together and deliberate on the challenges that our communities are experiencing. Once we have listed all the challenges that we are experiencing as a community, we can then map the way forward to say, how best can we localize the solutions to the problems that we are experiencing? Very important, localizing. Because not every solution that we are going to craft and draft will be relevant for each community. These communities are diverse, and therefore they deserve a solution that is specifically geared for them. Someone once mentioned African solutions for African problems. In other words, in that community where we are finding ourselves in, let us craft solutions specifically geared to that particular community. Let us put plans in writing. And we say, this is a strategic plan for village 1, 2, and 3, for township 1, 2, and 3. And such plan must be put in public space so that when we are not doing such actions and executing the activities, someone can challenge us and question us and says, but you said 1, 2, and 3 should be done, but you are not doing it. In our country, we have got the National Development Plan. How often do we go to that National Development Plan and says 1, 2, and 3 was supposed to have been done in this particular year, but it has not yet been done. So it's when we have written the plan and make it plain and make it published that we can be able to move towards executing the plan and the solutions to the problems that we are experiencing. Let's be aware and acknowledge that we have got problems. Let us sit and the challenges that we are experiencing in order to come up with solutions, actionable solutions to the problems. And once we have done that, then we put that in writing in a strategic plan and make it public so that we can be held accountable to that plan and move in executing the plan. The second question talks about moving from fault finding to be the action people who are actually moving towards resolving the problems. It's very easy for us to find faults in something that we are not involved in. We will be scrutinizing and identifying problems that our leaders are not doing. And let me quote a gentleman called Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft. He said, the most unhappy customers presents a great opportunity to learn. Now, when we are the fault finders and listing all the faults that we find in others who are leading and others who are moving and making mistakes, we should be the custodian of solving such problems that we are identifying that our leaders are founding or have got a shortfall on. Our leaders won't be able to do everything. It's when we acknowledge that these leaders will be found wanting in certain areas that we make ourselves available to solve such problems. I was saying that you will find yourself in a particular community, and in that community, people are expecting government, local municipalities to resolve 1, 2, and 3 problems. But you are the recipient of such problems, such as crime, shortage of water, power crisis, and so forth and so forth. You are the recipient and you are sitting in that community and crying and finding fault without providing solutions to such problems. So it's when we realize that it is our community, it is our world, and we need to start contributing towards creating an environment that is workable for us, ourselves, because we are the people who are living in those communities. It's taking ownership that if this problem is not solved, I am going to be the recipient of this problem. And we move on to embracing that we too can address the challenges that we are experiencing in our environment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I like that last statement. We too are responsible in addressing the problems that we find in our environment. Fellow leaders, I'm gonna allow you an opportunity to make a comment or ask a question. So if you'd like to make a comment, please just go ahead and mute your mic and ask, or just lift up your hand if you'd like for us to formally recognize you. And yes, you can make a comment. All right. In the absence of no comment and no question, I would just like to believe that Prof has just hit uh, right on the head of what we all needed to hear, more especially on making real impact where we lead. I think uh, when I grew up and people will talk about leaders and they mention these are leaders and these are the leaders, and you go to institutions and you told these are our leaders. The only thing you knew about them was nice offices, wonderful chairs, suits, heels, nice cars, all of these awesome things, and going to meetings and meetings after meetings, and they seem to be very sophisticated. They would have this inside jokes that they would have when they walk around to meetings and to boardrooms. And I think over time, you get closer to these leaders and you become part of the leadership, and you realize that we have just sat in offices and titles and have all these accolades, but we are not ready and we are not implementing any solutions. And maybe the word leaders should not be even mentioned close to us. And I think that's a painful truth. I think that's a painful reality. And I hope tonight's session have at least challenged us to make sure that we be people who add real value, who ask ourselves questions. What are we doing where we are placed? How much value are we adding? Or we are just people who are there? There's a question here by Sengoveni. He says, suppose you get into a leadership role and find that almost everything is done the other way around. Employees do as they wish, no accountability for anything, no consequence management, and your conscience simply tells you that you have to change the situation. Where do you start? Where do you start? I think this is a typical challenge that most new leaders face. Prof, I'm going to hand it over to you to answer it, and then we will close. Prof?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question, but I will attempt to answer it. Most times when people find themselves in leadership position, one mistake that is made is not to communicate your vision um, to the people that you are just about to lead. I think when you are being appointed, you will obviously be introduced by someone who is more senior to you or who you will be reporting to. And on that date on which you will be introduced, you will then have to tell people who you are. And I always find that as a great opportunity to introduce your vision to such an organization that you are being introduced to. In your vision, you need to clearly state where you want to take the organization to, how you intend to take the organization to where you want to take it to, what are the value propositions that you wanna introduce, what do you subscribe to, and when you do that, automatically you are teaching the employees in that organization the values that will guide how you are going to be operating. From there onwards, you need then to have follow-up workshops in which you try to make sure that the values that you're going to be working by are engraved into these people's hearts. You workshop them and introduce these values and the principles into the new working system and indicate to them that this is the value and the value propositions that we're going to be working with from now going forward. And after you have taught them, maybe for some couple of months, about your principles, your vision, now you start enforcing to say that, guys, this is the new way we're going to be working here. And I am going to, now that I have taught you about these values and these principles and the vision, I'm going to start to hold you to account to these values and these principles. You are playing it clear. The game, the principles and the rules of the games are clear, and you have taught them, you have given them opportunities to ask questions on how you're going to be operationalizing these vision and these values. And if people no longer have questions, they've embraced your values, then you start to hold people accountable to say, if you're not applying yourself, you're not moving in line with the values, unfortunately, there will be some consequences that you will have to face in order for us to get to where I want to get the organization to. So clearly communicating the vision that you have for the organization, coming up with the values that will help you to accomplish that vision, and from there having a structure that you're gonna work with. Unfortunately, There will be some people that will resist the change that you want to bring because they will say, this is how we have been working. I've been working here for so many years, and this is how I've always been working here, and you're introducing new ways of doing things. But once you have workshopped them, they should be able to fit in properly. And you tell them what are the benefits of them embracing those values and embracing the vision that you have. Once you've clearly communicated that, you'll find it very easy for you to lead the people. But if you have not defined and communicated your vision, you'll always have opposition because people don't know where you're leading them to. I hope that answers the question.
Yep. Where there is no vision, the people perish. So yeah, and if it's not communicated, it doesn't help. It's not your vision, it's the team's vision. So thank you, Prof, for highlighting that. Thank you so much. I want to appreciate everyone that is in here and the Prof, Tshilidzi Nenzhelele, for the time you have given yourself to prepare and to also share these insights with us tonight. I want to say thank you for everyone's participation. Thank you for listening, for taking your notes. But I must make sure that we end it with a proper announcement. This is important. For the next session that we're going to have, it's not going to be on a Wednesday, it's going to be on a Monday. It's going to be next week, Monday. It's going to be at 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. And that is because the guest that will be presenting to us is in Canada, and that time is during the day on his time. So it will be 1 p.m. on his time. So he requested for us to have it at 1 p.m. instead of 2 p.m. Canadian time. So please let us be on time on Monday, 6 p.m. I'll make sure that you get all your reminders on time. So just thought I should put that reminder.